With electric car sales at an all-time high, there is no doubt that the world's biggest EV manufacturer, Tesla, is seeing massive growth. But over the years, a new threat has been evolving that could quite literally put an end to not just Tesla, but electric cars as a whole. Car enthusiasts and legacy car manufacturers like Porsche have been fighting hard to keep the internal combustion alive for our future generations to enjoy. Besides, who doesn't love the natural sound of a real engine as compared to the vacuum cleaner sounds that electric cars have to offer? The solution lies in fuel. Now, before you click away in frustration, no, this isn't any fuel. Imagine a source of energy that isn't harmful for the environment, which, by the way, is the biggest reason behind the popularity of EVs, and still lets you hear your engine roar. We're talking about synthetic fuels. Keep watching to find out how it can change our perception about electric cars and internal combustion engines. Synthetic fuels are a carbon-neutral fuel type that can be used in internal combustion engines. Carbon dioxide is captured during the manufacturing process, detailed below, and can be used to produce synthetic petrol or diesel and natural gas. If you run the fuel refinery on renewable energy like wind power, you've got the ultimate in green fuel, without a battery pack in sight. This means you can theoretically drive your Mustang and reduce the carbon footprint in doing so. The best bit is that this eco-friendly petrol alternative can be dispensed from the existing infrastructure of regular filling stations, so you can refill your car in seconds as opposed to minutes. Synthetic fuels are made by separating water into its constituent parts of oxygen and hydrogen via electrolysis. The hydrogen is then mixed with CO2 to make synthetic methanol, which you can then refine into synthetic petrol or diesel to fuel your existing ICE car in a way that effectively consumes CO2 rather than pumping it into the atmosphere. After all, why bother with the potential for range anxiety and overnight charging when you can just continue to fill your car up at any petrol station with near carbon-free fuel? What's more, according to Bosch, another company investing in the field, you'd be able to do so for just $1.20 per liter. For manufacturers too, surely the potential for synthetic fuels would see them abandon wholesale electrification programs in favor of a much more cost-effective alternative. So why aren't synthetic e-fuels being talked about more? Synthetic e-fuels have a huge number of upsides and will almost certainly have a future, though there are enough issues to suggest it may not go as far as to save the internal combustion engine in the face of battery electric vehicles. The chief problem with e-fuels is economics. Some 500 million liters of e-fuel is barely a drop in the ocean compared to the 45 to 50 billion liters of petrol and diesel consumed every year in the UK alone. The United States uses 467 billion liters every year. According to an e-fuel advocacy group, the eFuel Alliance, this is not such a problem because it does not forecast a sudden switchover to synthetic fuels. Rather, the gradual addition of synthetics to the petrol admixture, say 4% by 2025, 12% by 2030, and 100% by 2050. The group also said that eventually synthetic fuels could cost between 1.15 pounds and 1.87 pounds per liter. Now, the current average cost per liter of petrol is $1.78 per liter and is expected to rise sharply over the coming months, so the e-fuel prediction sounds great. However, another source, the International Council on Clean Transportation, icct, a U.S. nonprofit organization, says that this is totally unrealistic, putting the cost at between $2.70 and $4.01 per liter by 2030. While $3.60 per liter for petrol may not seem unreasonable for small-scale hobbyist applications, for those covering a lot of mileage, it will undoubtedly seem excessive. The fact remains too that while synthetic e-fuels can be mostly carbon neutral to produce, they are not carbon neutral at point of use. That's also before taking the carbon cost of shipping into account. Though road haulage in some territories might be cleaned up over the next decade or two, transport by sea is likely to be far from carbon neutral for some time to come. Although synthetic e-fuels may be some 85% less carbon intensive than current liquid fuels, that still isn't zero, which, considering the scale of the climate crisis, some say simply isn't good enough. Another question occurs when it comes to the hydrogen required to make synthetic fuels. Just how green is it? Porsche's Chilean project will admittedly extract its hydrogen using wind energy, but the majority of hydrogen produced globally at the moment is created using energy from fossil fuels. To scale up production of green hydrogen created using electrolysis would require vast amounts of energy beyond the current infrastructure capabilities of most countries. The UK Clean Transport Advocacy Group, Transport and Environment, says that synthetic e-fuels are 4 times less energy dense than batteries, and according to its analysis, if just 10% of all the UK's cars and vans used e-fuels, it would require 3 times as much renewable energy as if the same number of battery-powered vehicles. Ultimately, the mass adoption of synthetic fuels may also be stymied by a lack of consumer demand. With a number of governments around the world, including that of the UK, planning to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030, the demand for old fuels may simply fall away for everything other than heritage applications. One of the biggest complaints about electric vehicles just now is their relative expense compared to internal combustion cars, largely due to the cost of their battery packs. But manufacturers predict that electric cars will begin to achieve price parity with internal combustion models by 2028, with the purchase price coming down further thereafter. If this is the case by the late 2030s or early 2040s, for many holdouts, the economics of running an internal combustion engine as an everyday driver may no longer stack up. Synthetic e-fuels for road use may, by then, be of little interest to anyone other than leisure users such as classic car enthusiasts and bikers. But for that particular niche, e-fuels could be vital. For now, electric cars are the realistic bet. Processing facilities for synthetic fuels are still expensive and uncommon, and there is more work to be done for them to be widely available at an affordable rate. Electrolysis, as the name implies, involves a lot of electricity, so there needs to be a sustainable and affordable way of generating enough power to meet demand. While electric cars are streets ahead, synthetic fuels shouldn't be written off entirely. Existing fuel stations can be used to distribute them, meaning the infrastructure is basically there. And a hybrid running on synthetic fuel could prove a winner on all fronts: cheap to run, fuel efficient, and if renewable energy is used, great for the environment. There is, however, another alternative too: hydrogen fuel cells. Now, you may know about LPG, liquid petroleum gas cars, but hydrogen-powered cars are very different and are much closer to being electric cars since there is no internal combustion engine in the car at all. Instead, there's a fuel cell which generates electricity using hydrogen. Hydrogen, or H2, which you probably know as water, is the only exhaust emission from hydrogen cars, which can be refueled with hydrogen at a gas station. As the most prevalent element in the universe, hydrogen is unlikely to run out like gasoline or diesel will. Although hydrogen cars are now uncommon, this may change in the future. As more hydrogen cars start to appear on the road, you'll want to learn more about them so that you can compare them to electric cars of the future. After all, you won't be allowed to purchase a new automobile in the UK after 2025 if it doesn't have an electric powertrain. Now, you don't need to know much more than this to operate a hydrogen vehicle, which is similar to operating a petrol or diesel vehicle. Hydrogen is inserted via a fuel pump at the filling station, and it serves as the fuel to produce power. It is the electricity that drives the wheels. In essence, the electric motors used in hydrogen vehicles like the Toyota Mirai are identical to those used in conventional electric vehicles like the Renault Zoe, Volkswagen ID.3, or Hyundai Kona Electric. The difference is that in a conventional electric car, this energy only comes from an onboard battery that has to be charged, whereas in a hydrogen car, it comes from an onboard generator that utilizes hydrogen. They simply take energy and convert it into rotational movement. In this sense, hydrogen vehicles are superior to electric vehicles since they can be filled up quickly at a fuel pump, just like a gasoline or diesel vehicle. However, because there aren't enough hydrogen vehicles available today, it's impossible to establish whether they're better or worse than electric vehicles. There aren't many for sale, and the ones that are even quite specialized goods. In contrast, electric vehicles are far more commonplace. So in conclusion, hydrogen cells and synthetic fuels are excellent alternatives to electric vehicles, but it will take some time before they are widely used and their costs are reduced. Electric cars are secure until that time.